Welcome to week 7. And today actually this week we are going to learn the using the procedures and functions and doing the exception handling using the Visual Basic. Now you will see the lab for this particular segment of course in a separate lecture, but let's proceed with the main content. So our objectives are creating a splash screen. You know the splash screen. What is a splash screen? It is a screen that shows up when the application starts up. You know, it's like, many times when you install some software, you will see the version number. All the technical information. So that's kind of splash screen. So that one we will learn. Then we will see the pausing the splash screen. uh, it pops up and then it should not disappear immediately because you need to let your users read the contents of the screen. So that's the purpose. Then you our objectives is to adding a combo box object to a Windows form. This should be familiar to you because all these weeks we have been doing the Windows form. Then we will write a code for the selected index changed event. That is also pretty straightforward. Then understanding the procedures, we already started about the concepts around that. The button click, whatever modules of the code we have been dealing with, all of those are procedures. So there can be two types of procedures. You will see the function that returns a value and a sub which does not return a value. So we will understand the procedures, the functions, and also the sub procedure. Then we will learn the pass an argument to a procedure by value, then by reference. We will code a function procedure to return a value. We will create a class level variable. This is already done in our previous exercise. Then we will catch an exception using a try catch block that determine the order of exceptions in a try catch block. So this application, this particular in this week, the domain of the application that we are discussing, it's little bit complex than the before because the scope of the application increases. So it is important to divide each facet of a problem into different sections, separate sections of code called procedures. So the functions and procedures, they we use them to make your code more modular and more purpose driven. You usually address one of the object in some objective, some business objective of the code or a technical objective of a code within a function or procedure. The benefit of using the procedure or function is that this will give modularity to your code, and also that will make your code much more reusable and less costly to maintain. Now we will also learn the exception handling, the try catch blocks. That is the way we handle the exceptional scenarios in a code. They can check for any error a user might commit, because in these applications we are designing user interfaces, the desktop application user interfaces. The user may pass on some wrong values, some wrong data type. So try catch blocks, we previously we have seen that we did some form validation, the input validation, and then based on certain invalid inputs we created some message box and showed some errors. Those were very handwritten manual error handling. Here we will put it in a very automated scope, or in a very workflow type of scope, which will call some exception. So whenever that exceptional scenario happens, you never know when it happens, it depends on the user. So then you will see that the exception blocks are thrown with, I mean, exceptions are thrown with appropriate error messages. So one way to make your programs more professional is to display a splash screen while the full program loads. So this is our chapter project, which we will cover in the lab. uh, you will see the lecture in the lab. That's mostly working out the code by me, and then just illustrating the main steps. If you go through the book, you will find the similar description. So you can go through the lecture and go through the book, and then the chapter project is basically a scuba diving Windows application. So it is going to give you some business concept around this one. Like, there's a company that sponsors, or that delivers to the customers the scuba diving facilities. So they conduct the scuba diving, the packages. So there are locations. There are three locations the company operates: Australia, Belize, and Fiji. And then within each country, depending on their natural varieties, they can have different packages. For example, Australia, uh, the location Australia offers three packages: Great Barrier Reef, Shark, Tiger Shark, Fathom Chasm. So they have different length, right? And they have different costs. These are costs per person. So you will have a group, you and the group size will be kind of limited. We will see it. And for the other locations, you can see different packages, length, the time in terms of time, and the costs as well. So first you need to create a splash screen. I mean, create a window desktop application named Scuba Expeditions. Name the form accordingly, and then you create a splash screen, and that is basically covered under the lab, so I'm not going into detail. So first step is to create a splash screen in this application. Then I mean, these are the I mean, all the information that we have already discussed in the lab, so I'm skipping this slide as well. So so ultimately your splash screen should look like this. Okay, so this splash screen, I mean, when you code it, you should, whenever you start the application, this screen should come up, and then it should stay for certain length of time, so that the end user reads it properly, and then it goes to the main area of the form. That's how the splash screens work. So the pausing of the splash screen is basically letting the current thread to sleep for some time, let us say 5000 millisecond, and that way it will be paused for some time, and then it will transition, the application will transition to the next level, that is the form, Windows form. So as I said, I mean, it is the threading concept. I mean, you sleep the current thread. It is a single threaded application, so that thread needs to sleep for certain 5000 milliseconds. So then that way 5 seconds it will be paused, and then the next screen will show up. So then you will add a combo box object. So basically, when I say you will add a combo box object, so you are thinking, you are planning about something like this. Let me show you a quick screenshot. So you will see something like this. So this will be your Windows form, and this will be your combo box in the top right hand side. In the top you have the title of the activities, and then the feature, the title of the product, and then below that there is a combo box. That's the thing we have to add here. So you need to drag the combo box. It's a .NET component from the common controls category of the toolbox. Then combo box object is selected, and then you need to add the properties. I mean, you have to go to the properties window, name it correctly, and then you have to add a placeholder title of the combo box, and then you have to add different uh, drop down menus under the combo box. So a combo box typically contains a uh, default option, which is no option, of course, null, but it contains different menu items. So there are items under the combo box which you can add to it. So if you look at my Visual Studio window, the combo box object should look like this, the select location. And if you see here, you can see that here I have a default text select location, and then you have a collection object items, and under the items I put all the locations here. Okay, so that's how I dragged it from here and put it there, and then I coded it. Don't worry about the procedure, the code in details. We will go through that later. So then we we will handle the select index change events, which is also shown in the lab section as well. But the main idea is write a procedure by double clicking on the combo box, and then do whatever is needed to facilitate the events. So now the concept of procedure comes up when the program is broken into manageable parts. Each part is called a procedure. The procedure is named set of code which performs some given tasks. The Visual Basic provides two broad type of procedures. Number one is sub, that does not have any return type. It does not return anything, and the function which returns something. Okay. So a sub procedure is a procedure that completes its task but does not return any data to the calling procedure. A sub procedure is the series of Visual Basic statement enclosed by the sub and end sub statements. Typically, it looks like this. So it's typically a code block. So you see here there is a sub. So this is a sub, and it is a block of code, list of instruction, list of statements within this sub and end sub. This end sub denotes that this sub is completed. Within this code you have everything. Now these variables defined here, they have scopes only within this sub. If you call it outside this sub, those are meaningless. You won't find any difference. A sub procedure is called with a statement consisting of the procedure name, set of and set of parentheses in the form of a procedure call. Again, like this one, this procedure is called how it is. Let's say this one validate. I mean, this is not exactly the procedure. Let's I mean, this is called by simply executing it. I mean, just calling this procedure somewhere, the procedure is called in that way. Just name the procedure and put the parentheses, that will initiate the call to the procedure. So basically the call is made by these, I mean this procedure name, and procedure's signature is look doesn't look like the private, let's say the private procedure sub procedure name and then end sub. So that's a example. Then you pass the arguments to the procedure. So you can pass the arguments by value, the hard coded value, or by reference. So reference means in a computer, when you write a program, each variable has a memory location. So when you pass by value, you are basically passing the value of each variable irrespective of its location. That is costly because all the times you are um, creating a new variable to pass it. But when you use pass by reference, you basically pass the memory location and then everything takes place there. I mean, you modify the variable is basically you point to the exact memory location uh, the variable is staying, and then you manipulate that variable, change that variable, that memory location is updated with the new value of the variable. So you are basically not creating a new variable, you are using the exactly same variable. Only thing is that you are accessing that specific memory location to update the value of those variables. So you can pass multiple arguments as well as a part of the procedure call, but the function procedure is different. It is like it has a return type, so it returns a variable. That's a great thing. Its signature is kind of function. You name the function parentheses as data type, means it has to have a data type returning from it, and so you can assign a variable to that function. That variable should have the same data type as the data type returned by the function. So the function procedure is different in appearance from a sub procedure in three ways. Namely, the function procedure call has a receiving variable that is assigned the returned value from the function procedure. The data type of the return value is listed in the procedure declaration. The keyword return is used in the function procedure to return a single value. So some example, you will see plenty in our application. uh, you are also going to code the same. So let's say this is the function variable Fiji cost. I mean, this is the cost calculation for the Fiji drive, and you can see I'm returning decimal here. So cost is decimal, this is the decimal, I'm returning it like that. So that's an example. When you write a function procedure, you should not place any lines of its code after the return statement, because once you return, nothing should take place after that. The procedure is returned, it stops working. I mean, not stops working, it does not have anywhere to go after you uh, do the return. Any code you write after the return within the procedure will not be effective. So you can create a private class level variable as well. I mean, that's what we defined here. When class level variable is declared using the dim statement, it can be referenced by any code within any procedure within the class. So their relevance lies within the class. So these variables can be accessed from any function or any procedure that is defined within the class, but outside this class these variables won't be accessible. Now comes the exception handling. The try catch set of statements detects exceptions and text corrective option. So general syntax is you write try block, then you do the code, whatever code you are trying to do, then you place a catch block. The concept is whenever something exceptional happening happens within that code block, you don't know where it can happen. It can happen everywhere. At that point, the catch block is basically triggered, and then you do the exception based on whatever type of exception you pass as in the parentheses next to the catch block, and then finally you do end try. So an exception handling example is here. So line number 97 starts the try block, then line number 98 does some calculation, line number 99 catches exception as divide by zero exception, and then you pop up a message box and say attempt to divide by zero. That's it. So if that does not happen, I mean if the denominator is not zero, then these line number 99, 100, these two lines will never be active. So that is the beauty of this exception handling. It's like an automated error handling. You don't need to spell out each error separately. You can just tell that you try this code. If there is an error exception of the situation, then you catch that. That's how it works. So you can see different type of exceptions, the condition when this occurs, and you have the code example. So this table summarizes the some basic exception types along with when do they happen and also some examples there. So let's keep these slides, and our program design looks like this. I mean, you will find it in book as well. The use cases are defined here. I already mentioned about this particular design. This is the most important design, and then only thing is that this cost needs to be cost per person, and then you can do the program design accordingly. That's all I have defined in the lab, and you can do the event planning document, and that's about it. So this week actually you are going to complete this lab, and let me know if you have any questions, any issues, uh, if you want to set up any office hour to discuss any of the issues. Let me know and we can go from there. Okay, thank you. Happy coding.